let's go see what our boy's up to. I remembered Greg's invitation. Belle was nice, but I didn't think I could handle driving around in this heat. Besides, I really wanted to learn to make cake. More accurately, I wanted to eat them. With last night's encounter with Nikita all but forgotten, I made myself somewhat presentable and headed to town. Hi, Greg. I hope I'm not too late to make cakes with you. Oh, not at all. I was just about to start. I'm glad you decided to come. You'd better wash your hands so we can get baking. I don't think that's the voice that he had, but it's his now. I could go with a lolly voice. I ended up just trying and failing to follow Greg's baking instructions. Accidentally baking a whisk into one of the cakes was one of the least disastrous moments. Once the cupcakes came out of the oven, we got the chance to talk properly. Okay, Trixie.
Time to ice our cakes. Let's get creative.
I looked at my vaguely cake-shaped blobs of carbon. Adding icing to these would be like sticking plasters to someone hit by a howitzer shell. I don't know how you do this every day. I'm tired already. Although, to be fair, tired is pretty much my default state of being.
It's pretty tiring, especially since I'm open pretty much every day. I may not need to work as hard soon, though. Maybe I can take a break and enjoy the sun. I need to get to the beach.
Oh? Are you getting, like, a machine to make stuff for you, or what? Greg was suspiciously silent for a moment. I could see their eyes in thought.
Kinda.
I could tell they didn't want to talk about it, so I tried to change the subject. It's kind of nice getting pushed outside in the sun. I used to have to stay inside a lot during the summer since I can't really handle the sun with my lack of melanin. I got some of that new UV protective sun shampoo for it, though, this year, so I've actually been able to get outside. I'm still a little worried I might end up sunburnt, though.
I miss the heat. Hopefully I can spend some time outside before this heat wave ends.
You used to miss it?
Oh, I moved here when I was pretty young. Me and my parents used to live in Oceania.
Oceania.
I still remember playing in the summers there. They were even hotter than it is here today.
Oh wow, I hadn't realized. That's cool. I've wanted to visit Oceania for ages, but I don't think I could handle the heat wave there in the winter, let alone in the summers. Thousands of ash islands, dotted with strange Siberian artifacts thrown across the planet by the Dark Age cataclysm, sounded right up my alley. What about the sheepsit? I don't really know much about immigration.
Oh, no. I'll be fine, since I've lived there so long. I still think it sucks, though. And that poor sheep. I can't believe the Prime Minister wants to let her kid bite it back or she won't accept an exit deal.
I hadn't heard about that yet, but it didn't surprise me in the slightest. The exit negotiations were growing increasingly surreal. With the ring, the shop door open, and in strode a familiar face. Oh! What's up, sluts?
Hey, Heidi. Are you just popping in for lunch?
You bet. I can't hang around long. I have some stuff to sort out at the shop. She shot me a slightly scary look. I think it was meant to be friendly, but it's kind of hard to tell, Heidi. Can I get 20 soy meat rolls and a whiskey?
Heidi, I don't sell alcohol. How many times do I have to tell you?
Greg said as she got a half-liter bottle of Dusty Dunes whiskey out from under the counter and poured it into a paper coffee cup. Heidi smiled and winked at me. I winked back and probably looked pretty silly. Well, I better get going. See you later, you two.
Oh, Heidi, before you go.
Do you sell any boxes? I need some. Boxes? Yeah, I have some boxes. You can have them for free, honestly. I have plenty to spare.
Hooray! Awesome! I'll come pick them up later.
Nice. See you then, dude. Heidi left, and we got back to icing. What do you need boxes for, Greg? Before Greg could respond, the shop's phone started to ring.
I'll get that.
They picked it up and gave a chirpy hello. I like to eavesdrop at the best of times, but when Greg's face dropped and they ran into the cupboard, I knew I wouldn't be able to resist. Yes.
Like most of it?
No, that's too much. No, I can't. I don't have enough. Right, I know. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll try harder.
Goodbye.
Greg re-emerged from the cupboard, and they looked deflated. Hurt, even.
Sorry, Trixie. Business stuff.
Are you okay, Greg? Want to talk about it? I'm not usually one to ask that. I don't have the energy to deal with my own problems, let alone other people's, but seeing the usually chirpy Greg break down like this caught me off guard.
Oh, it's nothing important, just... The bakery hasn't been doing so well recently. I've been relying on selling in bulk to a couple of big businesses. A few hundred pastries a day for their canteens and stuff, right? Problem is, I haven't been able to keep up with that amount they need. Most of them have already dropped me. That was Crowbar Inc. on the phone. The CEO personally phoned to complain I wasn't making them enough pastries for their lunch. I've got a week to turn it around, and if not, well, I have to close, I guess. I'll have to find a new job in telemarketing, maybe?
Sorry, Trixie. I didn't mean to kill the mood. They were trying their best to backtrack and pretend everything was fine. Hey, no worries, Greg. I wish I could help, but... I looked at Greg's pristine cupcakes, and then I gazed in fear upon my abominations. I don't think I'm cut out for baking.
That's okay, Trixie. It's my problem to deal with, not yours.
They seemed to think for a moment.
Hey, Trixie? Are you into spooky magic stuff by any chance?
For sure. I study it at uni. Kinda. Why?
I thought so. You look like the type.
Was it that obvious?
There's, I guess, a kind of plan I have. Maybe you could help me with it.
I wasn't sure I liked where this was going.
This is probably going to sound really silly, but a few years back, I got a hold of some book, Cryptids of the South, I think.
Oh, sweet. I read that last term instead of doing my actual work. I was like, wow, I can write my report on spooky monsters. Then I reread the report brief and realized it was meant to be about some old dead language. I had to get my friend to bail me out.
It's a fun book, right? Pretty silly, but... When I started struggling to keep up with my orders, I remembered one of the entries, the antlered tree.
Oh, yeah, they're like some old food god or something, right? I could see why you'd like that. But this antlered tree is meant to bless people in need with endless amounts of food, right?
Those weirdos up in North Acres, they worship the antlered tree, don't they?
Yeah, ever since the Dark Age, I think.
Exactly. When the entire country was starving because of the ash storms.
Right, about 1.8 million people died over here. I was trying to make myself look smart by quoting the one statistic that had stayed with me from my college courses, required reading. But yeah, I studied the Dark Age back in college. It was pretty bad.
So you probably know North Acres was one of the only places in the country to have a death rate below like 5%, right? The others had a ton of farms and stuff, so it made sense, but Ovington and North Acres? It was a mining village. It had to import most of its food from the nearby towns, and they didn't have any to export during the famines.
They were right. It was a pretty well-known fact. Okay, that was creepy. The wind outside of my window matched the wind in the game. I did not like that, and I don't like that. Go away!
People say a stranger arrived at Ovington when the villagers started to get ill. Ovington and some of the nearby villages started to worship the antlered tree and survive the Dark Age with no trouble. So my point is, if the antlered tree could help them, then maybe it can help me now. I know it probably sounds like I'm mad, but I really believe that if this creature is real, it could help me. It might be my only chance to save the bakery.
Greg did sound a little mad, but I wasn't exactly one to judge on that front.
If I had an endless supply of pastry, that's my problem solved, right? I know it's a selfish use of endless food, but... Anyway, it sounds like you know all about this stuff, and I guess if you don't think I'm being too ridiculous, it would be real cool if you wanted to... I guess help me contact this thing, if it's real. I mean, I've already been making some plans to do this by myself, but if you're willing to help, it might be easier.
I was taken aback. Greg wanted to contact some kind of mysterious woodland god? Wasn't that generally a bad idea? Greg, that's a... Before I could reply, a group of wool suitors burst in. I guess from the wool fest going on in town today. I half expected to see Tabby, but I don't think she was there. It's not like she would have said hi anyway. She probably wasn't interested in talking to me. They all bought grass cakes. I guess they were getting into character. After they left, Greg spoke up again.
So, what do you think, Trixie? Want to go along with my silly idea?
I couldn't say no. Greg deserved to keep their bakery, and if this, at best silly, and at worst horrifically dangerous scheme made them at least feel better about the situation, I'd go along with it. In retrospect, this was a poor decision. Sure, Greg, you can use my, expertise. I gave them a smile and tapped my little brain. Greg ran over to me for a hug, but I guess my face went into the about-to-be-hugged grimace I've adopted ever since puberty hit me.
Oh, sorry.
Not really into hugs. Sorry, Greg. Maybe another time. Greg seemed to understand.
Thank you, Trixie. So, there's this book called The Notes of Ilaria Divonin... Nenbor. Apparently she knew a lot about this kind of stuff. There's only like 2 copies though.
Yeah, one of those spooky grimoires. I'm pretty sure they're always kind of bullshit though. I said this, but at the back of my mind I couldn't help but think of the King in Yellow. After seeing Nikita last night, and feeling the pull of that play's yellowed pages.
I mean, sure, most of them probably are. But the Notes of Ilaria Divonenenbor? Well, I've heard things about it. Anyway, I might be able to get a hold of a copy of it soon. But let's talk about that tomorrow. We have cakes to ice.
We iced cakes for a little longer, but eventually I had to get going. Greg let me take some of their cupcakes back to my room for lunch, which was nice. I think mine ended up in a biohazard bin. It had been a nice, if strange, day. According to Poppygon.com, Cyberjack Cool Yes from Mars was getting a reboot, so that was cool. Cyberbat Razor had a new design, somehow even hotter than the old one. Irrelevant, sorry again. That was some pretty exciting news, but pretty soon that night took a turn for the worse. I'd been gorging on the cupcakes I'd bought back from Greg's all evening, thinking about what we had spoken about. I decided to wait till I saw Greg again to look into it. Eventually, I managed to get to sleep, only to be immediately woken up by knocking at my door. I was thinking about seeing how Greg was doing when my phone buzzed. It was Greg. Convenient. Hey Trixie, I was wondering if you wanted to come help me with that thing I asked about yesterday? Oh, I could, I guess.
You okay, Trixie? You sound sad.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just tired is all. Maybe I'm having a classic HRT mood swing. I'll come over soon, okay?
Okay, hope you feel better soon. Don't push yourself, but also please come because I need you.
I'd almost forgotten about my discussion with Greg. I was already feeling weird about the whole meddling with strange entities stuff, but that they had going on. And after last night, I just wanted to stop Greg making any mistakes. If the King in Yellow was real, Carcosa, the Broken Throne, I didn't need another unspeakable terror in my life. I shook my head. It would probably be fine. I'd talk them out of it. Doubt. Greg was making cakes as usual.
Hi, Trixie. Nice to see you.
It wasn't Greg, it was me. Besides, I ended up in a scrap last night with someone wearing a box on their head. I won, obviously. I hurt my leg pretty bad when I tackled him, though, so I'm not really up for any outings. Heck, sounds nasty. Did you catch them? Nah, they were pretty small and hyperactive. Greg? When Heidi said that there was something in, oh, it was me, it wasn't Greg. Unless I'm the distraction. Oh no. We're going to Heidi's.
Feeling any better?
Oh, yeah, I'm feeling fine. I just had a late night is all. It was half true. I didn't really want to go into the crap with Nikita right now, much less the King in Yellow. No, today was going to be a relaxing day of helping out Greg. I could worry about Carcosa later. So, you wanted me to help with something, right? Like research?
No, not research. I got some stuff sorted out last night already. I totally arranged a meeting with someone selling a copy of that book. I need right here in town. We're meeting tonight.
Oh, cool. So, like, you're buying it and want me to help you read it?
I was thinking more, you help me steal it?
I think Greg saw the look on my face and scrambled to keep me on board. Unfortunately, I succeeded.
Hey, it's for a good cause, right? I can't afford it. I need it to save my bakery. And besides, like, maybe it's a fake. They might just be a scam artist. We'd just be beating them at their own game.
I don't know, Greg. Sounds like a crime. A criminal act. We'd be criminals, Greg.
But this might be my only chance to save the bakery. This person, apparently they're rich, if that makes any difference.
Oh. I mean, if they're rich and hoarding haunted books and you're poor and need haunted books, I guess that means ethically we have to rob them, right? Like that old story where the fox stole money from the rich and gave it to the poor, or whatever.
Exactly like that. Those haunted books belong to everyone, and I need one to save my bakery. And maybe in future, we can make it up to them. So, you in?
Unfortunately, I said yes.
Crimes?
Crimes. We spent most of the day running the bakery like normal, but after we closed up for the day, we got down to our dirty, dirty crime.
Okay, so, you know the plan, right? When I say the trigger phrase, Tango October Dust, you leap out and push the schmuck over. That okay?
It wasn't a very subtle trigger phrase. I was curious to see how Greg might deftly weave it into the conversation.
No, when you push them, you gotta make sure it's a good push. We need to grab that book and run. Apparently they're trained in some kind of dual-wielding weapon-based martial art, and I don't want to find out about it firsthand. Greg attempted
a reassuring smile, but I was not reassured.
Oh yeah, I made us some disguises too.
I swear if it's feathers.
Surprise! It's me, Greg. I hope I didn't scare you with that spooky face I drew.
They tossed a second box over to me. A box?
Yeah, of course. We don't want to be recognized, right? They might seek revenge.
That wasn't reassuring. I tried on my disguise. It would definitely cover our faces, but they weren't particularly impressive.
Right, so you know the plan, don't you?
Alright. They hide behind something. We're hiding with disguises on.
With the disguise on.
I sighed. I hide behind some bins with a box on my head. When you say the trigger phrase, I leap out and push over the bookseller. In the confusion, you grab the book and we run away.
What's the trigger phrase?
Tango October. October.
Tango October Dusk. Dusk. Tango October Dusk.
Yeah, I knew that. Greg bit their lip. They didn't seem particularly convinced. I pulled off the box. It'll be fine, Greg. I promise. But, Can I make some changes to my box? Oh no. Me and Greg got into position at the meeting spot, the alleyway next to Pound Town. A figure appeared at the end of the alleyway as if by magic. They slowly approached us. I kept my head down, behind the bins. Excuse me, that's the mask. That's the mask. That's the mask. That's the mask. That's literally the mask that we were gonna destroy. What? Excuse me? Excuse me? Why are they... How does Heidi get a hold of this mask? I am confused and mildly frightened.
The daylight shroud dissipates, and I arrive here through the moonlight. Delilah Moonbeam, keeper of the cosmic secrets.
Delilah Moonbeam, keeper of the cosmic secrets, froze as they raised their hooded face to Greg.
Wait, is that...
Delilah shook their head, dismissing whatever they were thinking.
Ahem. I mean, wait, is that definitely the person searching for the last book of The Darkest Dread?
Of course. So, you have it?
Of course. I could not have forgotten it. I am a servant of the moon itself, here to grace you with the terrible gifts.
Excellent. This deal should go down smoothly then, my friend.
This deal should go down smoothly then, my friend. Was that the trigger phrase? It didn't sound like one, but the irony of launching our crime with it would be pretty funny. Delilah would probably laugh about it later. Was Greg into irony? I wasn't sure. That wasn't it. No, that wasn't it. The actual phrase is way crummier. I could distinctly remember rolling my eyes when Greg first mentioned it.
The payment, then. Do you have it? The Moonlight Man demands it.
Haha, well, the octagon strikes dawn, right?
Was that the phrase? It sounded weird enough to be it, and did have the word strike in it. Nope. No, I knew it wasn't, and kept hidden.
Excuse me?
Oh,
Sorry. It's from a cartoon. I thought you were referencing it.
there was an awkward pause.
So, like, are you going to give me the money now, or?
Haha, yeah. It's veritable old Tango October dusk.
What? What does that even mean?
That's an OWO. She's an OWO. I leapt out from the bins. Delilah yelled, but before they could turn to face me, Greg jumped at them, creating a short distraction while I knocked into them, pushing them forward. Their mask fell to the ground, but seemed undamaged. Delilah seemed to realize their face was exposed, but Greg was already lunging for the book. Delilah dropped it and pulled their cloak over their face, keeping their identity shadowed by the night. They ran and quickly disappeared from view. Wow, that went pretty well.
Nice job. I should have known keeping their secret identity would be more important than the book. Good thinking.
Oh, yeah, that was intentional. Duh. I totally owned them. It hadn't been intentional, but Greg seemed impressed.
We better get going, Trixie. I don't want to hang around here any longer.
Oh, yeah, let's go. Before I could run, something stopped me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Delilah's strange mask lying on the dirty alley floor. Pick it up, pick it up. The mask seemed to stare at me through its single empty eye socket. Memories of a masquerade in the Imperial Palace filled my mind. I shuddered. Was I really considering taking this strange thing? Yoink. Timidly, I picked up the mask. It was made of a fine china, intricately inlaid with jewels and gold. Me and the mask stared into each other's eyes for some time.
Hey, hurry up in case they come back.
I jumped and stuffed the mask into my bag. I don't think Greg saw. Oh, sorry, coming. We hurried through the streets, eventually reaching the bakery where we could pull our disguises off and catch our breath. Hey, Greg. I feel kind of shitty. We just committed a really mean crime.
Hey, no, Trixie, don't worry. It's better I had the book for a good reason than some bad guy getting a hold of it, right? Delilah will be fine. We just spooked him a little. And you saw how much money they were asking for. They're obviously super rich, right?
I guess. As long as it's to save the bakery.
Of course. I'm sorry for making you feel bad.
No, it's okay. I always feel guilty. Even over silly things like being called Trixie. I sighed. Let's not get into that.
No, well, thank you for your help, Trixie. I won't let you down. I promise.
Greg reached their arms out, offering me a hug. You get that hug. You get that hug. I let Greg hug me. I think I forgot to actually hug them back. I guess I need more practice.
Thanks, Trixie.
Yup, that sure was a hug, alright. Greg seemed amused by my awkwardness.
Right, I have a book to read. I need some coffee.
Greg flicked through the book, their eyes flitting back and forth for the passage they needed. Between every page, they took another big sip of mocha. They must have refilled their cup about 8 times in less than half an hour. That explains a lot. My stomach felt uneasy. I felt bad about the robbery, and even worse about Greg's plan. I knew they meant well, but in my mind, I had seen the black stars hang in the Heidi's, the white gate to the cosmos, the dread galleys of the imperial slavers. I knew there were things that shouldn't be meddled with. I shook my head. There was nothing to worry about. The book was probably a dud, a silly old storybook from a more superstitious time. I would soon learn this hope was in vain.
I found it. Call it forth to thy harvest queen. It's like a spell or something. Awesome. This is such a cool book.
I wanted to be glad for Greg. They seemed to be enjoying the book, but I still felt uneasy about this. Cool, Greg. They were so excited they didn't seem to notice I wasn't too keen on this. Greg is lovely, but easily distracted. It seems pretty simple. We just need to get some food we want, an effigy to the antler tree, and then just a drop of,
hair. Huh. We have all of those except the effigy.
We could make one out of, marzipan or something, right? Like you do for wedding cakes? Yeah, we could go to North Acres and steal one.
They probably have loads.
Wait, what? Steal? Greg, didn't you hear me? We can make one.
I guess, yeah. I kind of wanted to go steal one, though.
Greg, are you okay? Did robbing Delilah put you into some kind of blood craze or something? What's with all the petty theft? Come on. You could totally make a kick-ass effigy out of your marzipan. No need to go all the way to North Acres, right?
I guess maybe, but I kind of want to drive really fast all the way to North Acres and steal one. It would be fun, right?
Greg was seriously hyped up on caffeine and sugar, even by their standards. They looked like they might actually explode if they didn't go outside and commit some pointless petty theft. It was pretty weird, to be honest. Okay, Greg. If it makes you happy, they're all rich over there anyway, so it's basically a victimless crime, right?
Yeah, sure, let's go.
Okay, sure, let's go be criminals. We already mugged a mysterious moon entity tonight, so this is a step down, to be honest. I mean, I wanted to check out North Acres for a while anyway, so it might be nice to look around. Why am I doing this? Anyway, when we got to North Acres, I didn't get to look around because it was pitch black. We were speeding along a countryside lane in Greg's van, each pothole threatening to break my spine. Hey, Greg, can you see me with that on your head?
Haha, no, but I can't see in the dark anyway.
Getting driven to a creepy village by a blind, hyperactive baker on a caffeine rush at 3 a.m. was starting to look like a poor decision on my part. I think we must have passed through a few villages or something, but they were deserted and unlit.
Hey, look, there's one.
Greg slammed down on the brakes. It was a good job I had my seatbelt on. The van's weak headlights lit up a gate of some kind. Hanging from one side of it was an effigy, much as the book had described.
Okay, let's get stealing.
To cut a boring story short, we stole it. But it moves. We eventually returned to the bakery. Greg was double-checking the book, I guess making sure we had everything.
Those meanies at Crowbar Inc. feel so silly for doubting. Me, Greg.
Greg seemed to be crashing. Unsurprising, given the amount of extra sweet mocha they drank. Yeah, double sugar mocha. Double sugar mocha. Oh. I don't like it, but I do. I took another look at the effigy. It was an elongated prehistoric deer skull carved from wood. Strips of dark fabric hung underneath it, and a confused mess of twigs stung out from the skull. It was unsettling. I shook it off. There were worse things out there than the silly skull puppets.
Awesome! Cool,
They yawned squeakily. Clearly they were about to pass out.
We got everything we need. Though, maybe let's wait until tomorrow or...
Greg fell asleep. Poor thing. Good night, Greg. I left them a note so they'd know I wasn't kidnapped and managed to get a taxi back to my place. That night, I dreamt of the basement on Daffodil Lane. I was crumpled on the floor, blood-stained and fur on my side, and covered my hands. Through bleary eyes, I could make out Nikita. Nah, we read this. Skip to something I haven't seen. Me and Greg were running through the forest. We seemed desperate to escape something. I tried to yell, "Why are you running?" out to Greg. "Why are you running?" But my voice was muffled and quiet. I glanced over my shoulder and regretted it. Towering above us some distance away was a dark figure as tall as trees surrounding us. An elongated skull peered down at us with empty sockets. A bush of tangled horns pierced the dark sky. An antlered tree. Black mist emanated from it and crawled through the trees toward us with frightening speed. I yelled in fear and turned away. At least now I knew why me and Greg were running. Greg shouted, falling over a discarded coffee cup stuck in the dirt. I spun around to make sure they were okay, but Greg was pulled into the black mist and disappeared with a shriek. Not wanting to look, I turned back. The bakery's door was still far in the distance. My foot caught on a root and I tripped, black mist devouring me. I plunged back into consciousness and awoke, screaming and shaking. My eyes darted around my room and I was alone. Everything was as it should be. I thought I'd better check on Greg. Maybe they wanted to perform their fucked-up ritual today. After that dream, I was even more uneasy about the situation. They didn't message me back for a while. Sugar. Too much sugar. Sugar hangover. Staying in bed. Oh, no. Have a nice rest. Poor Greg. All those mochas last night must have come back with a vengeance. I sighed. With nothing to distract me, there was nothing else for it. I'd have to face up to Nikita. Right on cue, there was a knock at my door. Okay, I'll just scare him a little. Enough to make him stop bothering you. Exactly. It won't take much to spook him. He'll be fine. Wait here. I'll get you a disguise so we can't take you to court. Not that Parstim knows what court is. Rose disappeared into her house, eventually returning with a big cardboard box. Here, a mask. That's a box. Yes. But look, I got some eyes holes in it, so it's a mask. I was starting to notice how little creativity everyone in my life had when it came to stealth. I walked down the lane trying not to admit to myself that I was only doing this so I didn't have to go back. Parsnip had clearly woken up after a sugar coma. I could see him outside his cottage talking to his daffodils. He seemed to be stringing friendship yarn around them and congratulate them on winning the trial. Oh jeez, am I really doing this? I approached Parsnip, praying he didn't see me through my disguise. Hi, Trixie! Fuck! Please, no bad words. My name is Gustav. No, I am not Trixie. I am Gustav. I am Rose's friend. I mean, I am Rose's henchman. I am going to push you into a bush now.
Oh, okay. There's a bush over here. Follow me.
He skipped over to a nearby bush and patiently waited for me to follow.
You can throw me in the bush now.
Yeet. I pushed Parsnip as gently as I could. He fell over as lightly as a feather and landed in the bush.
I'm in the bush now.
I felt pretty mean, but he seemed to be enjoying himself. Yeah, take that as a warning. Leave La Rose alone. Or, I'll push you in the bush again, baby.
I don't know who La Rose is, but okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. I'll just be going now. Back to my home. In Kynasburg.
Okay, see you around, new friend.
I returned to La Rose's cottage. Oh, you're back. Did you do it? Yeah. I feel kind of bad, though. What? Did he die or something?
I mean, no, he seemed completely unfazed. I told him to leave you alone, but I don't know if he understood me quite right.
Well, I guess it was worth a shot. Thank you. I better get back to my painting. I'll see you around. I decided I'd been fucking around for too long and reluctantly got on with my business. My phone buzzed. It was Greg.
Hey Trixie, I'm going to do the thing tonight. Can you come down and help?
Can I wait? I have stuff on.
Nope, I need to get those pastries made, and running all week means I'm already behind schedule. I'm doing it tonight. You don't have to come. I can do it alone. Probs won't work anyway, Levi.
No, I'm coming. Wait for me.
I'm not late, am I?
Trixie! You're not too late. I waited for you.
That was a relief. On the run here, I'd been fearing what I might find. This was my last chance to stop Greg from doing anything they might regret. Having meddled with dark forces, I know it wasn't worth the risk. Greg, before you do anything, are you sure this is a good idea? Just think for a moment. If it's real? Do you really want to make some kind of deal with an ancient, unknowable woodland god?
I mean, we've come this far, right?
And
if this is what it takes to save the bakery... Yes, I'm doing it.
Oh, okay. I'm not much of a negotiator.
But look, I've got everything ready while you were on your way.
They pointed to a mixing bowl of cheese-bake ingredients.
Now all we need is to add a hair.
I'm super self-conscious, so you should look away.
So, like, just turn around for a minute and I can pull my hair out, okay?
It's blood. He needs blood.
Sure, Greg.
I turned around. This was weird. Since when was Greg anything even approaching self-conscious? What were they hiding? Yep. I heard Greg let out a little whimper. I felt bad for them. Pulling hair sucked.
Okay, Trixie. It's ready.
I took a look. I couldn't see any hair, but there was a small splash of red liquid seeping into the pastry. That pretty much confirmed my suspicions that this ritual wasn't quite as innocent as Greg was letting on. I felt uneasy, but it was too late now. Greg wasn't going to be talked out of this. Greg nervously placed the tray into the oven. I saw the effigy was already inside. We were ready. So you're sure about this? I mean, it's our last chance to stop, just in case it is, you know, real.
I'm sure. I can't let my bakery shut down. I have to take the risk. You can go, Trixie, if you don't want to be here.
Part of me wanted to. Most of me, in fact. But I had to stay. Whether it was to make sure Greg was safe or to satisfy some kind of terrible curiosity, I still don't know. I'm staying. We started this together, and we'll finish it together. I'm pretty sure I just stole that from, like, every other movie, but it seemed pretty fitting.
Yay! Thank you, Trixie.
I was briefly worried Greg was going to hug me, but fortunately the excitement of the ritual seemed to be keeping them distracted. With a trembling hand, Greg reached for the switch and flicked the oven on. I'd been expecting a whoosh of flame, the sound of chanting, and the opening of a portal, but instead the food just seemed to bake normally. As normally as a bowl of cheese and blood sat next to a wooden skull would bake anyway. Huh, that was anticlimactic.
We need to let it bake, obviously. Jeez, Trixie, don't you know anything about baking?
As we had already clarified a few days ago, that's accurate. As we had already clarified a few days ago, no, I didn't. So, like, we just wait?
I guess so. We can talk or something for a bit. It shouldn't take too long, right?
We spoke for a while. It must have been a few hours at least. Occasionally, Greg would check the oven. Smoke still billowed out of it, but fortunately, the bakery's extractor fans seemed to suck it all up. I don't remember anything we talked about. My mind was completely overcome with worry. I feared that any second there would be a bang, and some terrible being would explode from the oven with a screech and rend me and Greg to pieces with its claws. It's been like 3 hours, Greg. I think maybe it's time we admit this isn't going to work. I put on my best disappointed face. Before Greg could say anything, there was a loud bang. Our heads shot around to the oven. Something was knocking on the door from within. Oh, jeez, Greg, this isn't good. Another bang.
Well, I mean, we should probably let them out if there is anyone in there.
Greg nervously pulled the oven's door handle. It swung open. Oh. A strange, cheesy membrane sack tumbled out of the oven and landed on the floor with a disgusting, wet thud. It should have been revolting, but I couldn't help but feel hungry when I looked at it. It smelled delicious.
Oh, I mean, this isn't quite what I was hoping for. There was a hideous noise as the sack split like wet tissue.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Lord. Oh, my. I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this.
A small pastry pot tore through the thin membrane, and from inside, a delicious-looking, friendly pastry Greg peered out at us with big empty eyes.
I looked at Greg, expecting to see revulsion or fear, but their expression was one of delight. Strange pastry golem blinked at us vacantly.
Oh, my baby, aren't you gorgeous? Let me help you up, Sleepy.
Greg held out his hand, and the strange being daintily looked at it and shakily pulled itself onto its feet. This wasn't what you wanted. Greg, this isn't right. You wanted infinite pastries, right? Not a creature.
Yeah, no, this is okay. This works. It's still pastry, right?
Greg gently took the hand of the creature, lifting it as if to kiss it.
Then without warning, they took a bite out of it.
I almost screamed, half expecting the golem to yelp or attack, but it stood there motionless, cocking its head slightly and smiling at Greg with its strange smile.
Oh, wow. You really are a tasty one, aren't you?
I felt queasy. The golem certainly looked delicious, and yet something about it felt wrong. Very wrong. Greg lunged for the creature's belly, clearly in need of more of it.
Greg, this doesn't make sense. You're going to sell your clients this thing?
Yep. No, I think I'll keep them. They can live with me. I don't want to get rid of them. I watched Greg gorge themselves on the flesh of the pastry golem. Cheese and sauce ran down Greg's body as they tore into the abomination. With every bite, the creature would heal. It was an endless supply of pastry. The ritual had worked. Kind of. Trixie, seriously, you should come try this. Greg waved me over without even turning to face me. Something felt very wrong. The more I stared at the golem, the more my mind rejected it. Its emotionless face vacantly stared at Greg as they stuffed handfuls of pastry into their mouth, lost in their gluttony. I felt a chill on my body, and for the first time I noticed a metallic smell. I became acutely aware that it had been present for some time. My mind blanked. I was stood alone in a dark forest clearing. Was this a dream? A vision? I still don't know. The woods behind me, I could hear rustling of leaves and an ominous rumbling, as though the very earth shivered in fear. I wanted to call out to Greg, but I felt as if I'd been punched in the stomach. I could only let out a pathetic whimper. A feeling of dread had grown into a fist-sized rock in my throat, and my mind was as stormy as the clouds of Heidi. Trembling, I turned my head to the side, desperate to keep whatever was behind me in the corner of my eye. I saw it. A tall, thin shape stood at what must have been 20 meters behind me at the edge of the clearing. The figure appeared armless, and its highest point was a tangled mess of antlers. And worst of all were its eyes, 2 small pinpricks of amber light, though enough to light its deer-like skull and wide, unblinking eye sockets. The eyes bore into me. The smell of metal turned into the smell of death, and I was sure the terrible being knew I could see it. Ah! I let a scream and looked away, straight back into the bakery where I locked eyes with the golem. It was no longer a creature of pastry. Its body was slick and red. It was a creature of meat. I could swear I saw its mouth opening into a gummy grin. And yet Greg continued to engorge themselves on it, pulling slivers of flesh from the body and forcing them into their mouth. Their usually beautiful fur was stained with blood and bile. Trixie, for real, this is amazing. You should try some. Actually, you can get your own one. This is mine. I stepped backwards. The scene in front of me was too horrific to look at. I knew Greg was too far gone. I need to take action, no matter how unpleasant it might be. This had to end. Greg was under some kind of spell. I had to save them. I grabbed the first weapon I could find, an egg beater. I hoped it was called a beater for a reason. I charged forward and shoved Greg. They fell to the side with a yelp of pain. I slashed through the air with the egg beater and struck the golem with a horrid squelch and sunk into its soft flesh. It smiled at me, seemingly unbothered. Die! Please! I stabbed the egg beater into the creature again and again, to no avail. It didn't care. Something struck my side and I tumbled over. Greg had recovered and jumped me. We both rolled across the floor. I became acutely aware of how sharp their fangs were as they pinned me down. For a moment, I almost surrendered, but then realized that I was twice the size of Greg and pushed him off of me. We both managed to stand up and back away from each other. I'd lost my egg beater in the tussle, but looking at the golem, who remained gazing into the distance, I knew it wouldn't be any use. Trixie, leave them alone. They're mine. I need them. Greg, don't you see what it is? It's not stuff you should be eating, it's... What if I was imagining it? I looked at the meat golem. Its shiny flesh glistened in the pastry's lights. Bakery's lights. It looked real, and yet we had both seen it as a pastry. I see. I'd done it. Greg was seeing things right for the first time since this terrible creature had been birthed. Or so I thought.
But it's okay. I like it.
They licked a trickle of blood from their cheek. They lunged at me and shoulder barged into me. Despite their small size, the surprise meant I fell to the floor once more. Greg was going for the golem, hungry for more meat. I scrambled to my feet, intent on stopping Greg getting another mouthful. I felt bad doing it, but I managed to trip Greg over. They let out a little whelp as they tumbled to the floor.
Owie!
The golem stood there, gazing at me. While Greg was recovering, I started to push it towards the oven. It padded along its clumsy feet, seemingly unaware of what I was doing. I bundled the golem into the oven. It seemed happy to oblige, staring at me with the same vacant expression it had been born with. I'm really sorry, horrible meat abomination, but this is probably for the best. I switched the oven onto its highest setting and leapt away, crashing to the floor. The golem was born in heat, but I hoped it could die in it too. In retrospect, I wish I had come up with an action movie one-liner. Revenge is a pastry best served burnt. I don't know. It might have lightened up the situation, but I guess at the time things were a little chaotic.
My little lovely sweetie.
Trixie, you... I was worried Greg was going to rush into the flames pouring from the cracks around the oven door and hurt themselves, so was relieved when they rushed to me and started beating me with their tiny paws instead. Greg, stop, it's done. No more meat.
You...
Then we stopped tussling, for we both heard the sound coming from the oven. From within the burning chamber we could hear the golem singing to itself. We let go of one another and stood together as the mournful song continued. We listened for what felt like days, mesmerized by the beautiful sound. And then, as black, rancid smoke began to leak from the cracks around the metal door, it slowly died out, ending on an impossibly long and beautiful note. I felt a serene calmness fall over me, the first time I'd felt truly calm in years.
Trixie, What happened?
I didn't really know where to start, but I did my best to explain everything. Greg seemed to only remember fleeting glimpses of what had happened after we heard that dreadful knocking from the oven.
Trixie, I'm so sorry for what I did. That wasn't me. I mean, it was, but I'm not normally selfish and mean and hitting you and eating meat. What did that thing do to me?
I don't know, Greg, but it wasn't your fault. The thing seemed to put some kind of evil spell on you. Well, I'm sorry anyway, Trixie. I shouldn't have dragged you into this mess. It was silly. Don't worry about it. Summoning a terrible meat golem is an easy mistake to make. It wasn't, but it seemed like making Greg feel better anyway. For what it's worth, you're still my friend. I guess you still have to work out some other way to keep up with those pastry orders.
Yeah, that's gonna suck. But hey, we both learned an important lesson. Isn't that the really important thing?
Don't take shortcuts. Believe you can do it in the right way. Greg looked confused.
Huh? No.
Don't make dark blood pacts with woodland gods unless you want to end up eating yourself.
Geez, Trixie, haven't you been paying attention?
True. Shortcuts rock.
Exactly.
Maybe no more stealing, though.
Yeah. Sure, Trixie.
I'm not sure I believe them, but baby steps, I guess.
So, you would be okay to help me get my orders finished? Just for a few days while I work out something new? I know you're not super into baking, but you could, like, help move stuff and clean and serve customers if you want. That way I can concentrate on just making sure I get enough stuff made.
Sure, Greg, I can help a little. I wasn't sure if I could promise anything. Peering out of the bakery window, I could see the full moon rising. I had to stop Nikita or perish trying. I should probably get going, Greg. I know it probably sounds pretty trivial after what we just saw, but I need to go help my friend with something. Boring uni stuff. You wouldn't be interested.
Oh, I mean, sure. I can clean this place up myself. The coffee machine wasn't damaged during our tussle, so I can just drink a ton of that and power through the night. I guess I'll see you soon then. You have a good night, okay, Trixie?
Yeah, definitely. See you, Greg.
Good night, Trixie.
I waved goodbye and started the long walk back to Daffodil Lane. I hoped this wouldn't be the last time I saw them. Okay, so I read a little bit ahead and the ending seems to be changed. How this goes down is different, so... Nikita had to be stopped. This ritual could not be completed. The artifact I did possess was powerful, to be sure, but against Nikita? Oh, I think it's because I didn't read the stuff about the crystal, so I don't have the crystal? I think that's why it's different, because I just kind of sped through it. But let's see.
What use would that be? It was a curse on me, nothing more. It was hopeless. Regretfully, I had to turn to my backup plan. I haven't spoken about what happened so far. Truth be told, I've been trying to forget it. I almost did until now. Still, I hope you'll understand that it was necessary, and I included in the interest of full disclosure. Thanks for reading this far, by the way. I know it's dragged on a bit. Nikita, I'm really sorry, but I'm not letting you do this. For once in my useless little life, I'm standing up for myself. What? I charged Nikita with a fury I'd never felt before. I wasn't going to let Nikita sit atop the broken throne. I wasn't going to let the terrible denizens of the decaying city under the dead moon leak into my world and destroy me. Destroy my new friends. Nikita's face was an equal mix of terrified and bemused. I don't think she considered I might do anything other than passively roll over and die. Usually, she would be right, but as strange as it might seem, the events earlier that night had made me realize how much I actually quite liked living. I slammed into Nikita and immediately crumbled to the floor with a yelp. The second I hit her, I had felt a sharp pain in my side. From my waist jutted my novelty scissors, their wacky, wavy blades shimmering in the candlelight. Enough games, Trixie! Now stay there, I'll be coming back for you soon. I just need to get this gate open. Nikita turned back to the yellow sign and began flicking maniacally through her notes. I was close to passing out, her silhouette blurred in my tired eyes, but I wasn't going to let Nikita win. With a pathetic little whimper, I managed to pull the blade from my side. Nikita was so transfixed on her work she didn't even realize until I shakily climbed onto my feet. Goodness, Trixie, where's this kind of determination the rest of your silly little life? I'm sorry, Nikita. What? I turned away and fled, sprinting up the stairs in agony. Nikita's voice rang out from behind me. Fine, Trixie, run! Be a coward, but there will be no escape from my power. I will crush you! There was no time to listen to her threats. I didn't have long left to stop her. I stumbled to Acorn Cottage. The gas canisters in the evidence box had been left untouched since my first visit. It was a foolish and horrific plan, but I'd run out of options. I couldn't fight Nikita, I knew I'd lose. Grabbed a canister and prayed that it was full. It was heavy, and made the run back to the abandoned cottage painful. My body ached from the stab wound, but a cocktail of adrenaline and fear let me power through. I managed to get myself back down the stairs, almost collapsing from the weight of the canister. I tossed it across the room to Nikita. It hit the floor with a clang, followed by hissing as gas leaked from the canister, invisibly floating towards the candles Nikita had set up. Nikita jumped at the sound and turned to me. For the first time that night, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. My heart wrenched knowing what I was doing, and I tried to apologize but found myself winded from exertion. The two of us trembled for a second, but I saw Nikita's eyes glance down at my hands and widen. In my hands I held the king in yellow. I felt my face grow pale at the sight of the hellish tome, and Nikita spoke out. It's not real. None of it. Trixie, It was too late. I turned and fled up the stairs. As I reached the top of the stairs, I heard the gas ignite and the floor beneath me rupture upwards. Holy shit. Fire bloomed out of the ground like a flower, and I was thrown into the air and out of the cottage. For a second I could swear I saw once more the curling clouds of Lake Haley and the rotten spire of the Imperial Palace of Carcosa. The moon, larger than ever before, hung in the red sky like a white stain. The clouds swirled and the orange flash of fire returned to my vision. I found myself facing the blazing remnants of the cottage. I gripped the plate close to my body and began to crawl away from the scene. I eventually stumbled back to my room and fell into my bed. Fortunately, my wound was more painful than it was deadly, and I seemed to have survived. The reality of what I did that night has only just started to set in, and I'm beginning to realize that I may be in trouble. I may be sick, but those are thoughts for another time. I've tried to write things as fast as possible that I can give you a good account. My memory isn't fantastic. I've ignored about 500 messages from Greg over the last 2 days while writing this. Rude, I know, but this is important. Anyway, I hope this document explains sufficiently why I may have been justifiably busy and need a week or two more to complete my coursework. In retrospect, I probably should have kept it shorter since I seem to have run out of room on the forum and,
Well, I guess without realizing it, I wrote most of my statement on the walls. Sorry. But to show how I will use the time I hope you guys give me wisely, I intend to start my research as soon as I submit this document. I shall finally finish reading The King in Yellow. That's it. That's it. That's all you're giving me? That's all you got for me? Holy heck. What? I didn't know that was another ending. I will see you guys in the next video.